Word to the cloud.
Huh? What?
We are now.
Well, that'll be the first thing. That's now we're recording.
Yeah.
Statement. Now we're
Starting with damn.
We've got minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't miss anything big. Anything you want to say, Dean, about the financial statements of the credit union balances?
No, I haven't had a chance to review any of that until I heard from Mary Joy.
Can I just make a request that rather than waiting until just before the June meeting, so at a point in time, whenever Mary Joy's ready to share with us what she would normally share with us.
Yeah, there
I mean,
was,
if we're gonna do our due diligence, even if it's not at a meeting, we should see that.
Yeah. I agree. There was a suggestion that as soon as Mary Joy had this figured out, we would meet earlier than normal. But
Sure.
there has to be, I believe, a 7-day notice for a meeting, which now that I know, I think I'll set up a meeting with a 7-day notice before the end of the month, and then I can do exactly what
Okay,
you were
great.
suggesting.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I do look at them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Would it be of interest to see the financials before they're approved by the finance committee, knowing that we generally don't have a lot of changes to them? I mean, we see them for what they are. We don't really
Right.
catch a lot of errors in the context of that meeting.
Yeah, my feeling would
Like,
be,
would you like them right away?
well, I think part of it's Dean's call, is if he's comfortable with that, since it's kind of a board.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
From
I
my
guess
point of
for your-
view, given
too.
that it's not gonna be at a meeting, okay, then, and we're not gonna approve it by email, I'd rather get it sooner
Just
than
email.
later. And
Yeah.
knowing that, okay, it is what it is, it hasn't been fully vetted or approved by the finance
True.
committee, but at least I believe you when you say it doesn't usually get
Yeah.
many changes. And I
Yes.
would imagine even if there are, they're probably pretty minor in most cases.
I
So
asked that same question when I first became treasurer, and essentially it was past practice to wait until after the finance committee. Now, I'm all in favor of changing practice.
I wouldn't even bring it up, Dean,
I think it's a good idea, though. I
if
wanna
we
do it.
hadn't missed at this meeting. So what I'm
Yeah.
talking, like, I think the normal process is
It's been
fine.
2 months.
We get it just before the meeting. That's fine. But when we don't, then,
Mhm.
we're kind of in the dark and trusting everything's just fine, which it's not that I don't trust people, but that's not fulfilling our fiduciary duty.
Nope, you're
You
right.
can't do that on
Yeah.
trust.
So the answer is yes.
I'll bring that to the finance committee. I don't see it being a problem. Just,
It could even come from Mary Joy usually
Yeah.
sends it herself.
The answer
Right.
is yes.
does,
The
yeah.
answer is yes.
it
Just
always
do
comes from her, because
Yeah.
she has,
Just ask
and
her to
I
do
think
it.
it's, I wouldn't have zero objection with that. And
Well,
the
let's
sooner
just do
people
it.
look at it, and then we can always add the proviso that these are provisional and will be reviewed by the finance committee, voted them in, and then brought here at the meeting.
Good.
Make it so. Make it so.
Yeah,
Okay.
and more time for review and questions that board members may have.
Yeah.
Exactly, because
Okay.
some of those things are difficult to look through for some people.
Mhm.
Might
Okay.
need a whole lot more time to look at it than 1 or 2 days.
Okay, moving on then to staff report.
Does Tom have his hand up?
Does Tom have his hand up? So,
I don't
somebody,
see it.
Tom, are you seeking recognition? I can't see that. far.
Oh,
Would you
I'm
like-
sorry, but it's on my screen. Stupid Laura.
Okay, it's okay.
Thank you, Laura.
But if anybody sees anybody seeking recognition, let me know, because I can't necessarily see. Staff reports then. First is Tom's. Anybody of any, I think Tom is on the call. Tom, anything you want to call to our attention? Congratulations on getting rid of all the detritus. Anything else? Yeah,
No, I don't think so. That basement, if you get a chance, go down to the basement and look. You haven't seen it look that way in years.
I'm gonna.
Lori, anything you want to say from a tech perspective?
Well, I'm glad to hear about the detritus that was in the audio being cleared up.
Yes. true.
So there was a lot of activity with engineering this month.
Spring cleaning.
Okay. Tom, while we got you, anything you want to say from a facilities perspective regarding the mural and how we proceed on that, even though do have the mural report coming up, but just in case you weren't able to stick around, anything you want to say about facilities and the exterior and its relationship with the mural and what you recommend for us going forward?
There's a lot in play now that the mural and the facade have kind of been separated, but we still got to figure out what we want to do about fundraising and who's going to look at the facade grant with the city. And so it's preliminary right now, but I don't really have a good handle on anything.
Okay.
We did take down the old WORT sign in the front though, that's just today.
And why did we do that? And why is Doug so happy about that?
I can
I'll
speak
let
to
Doug
that.
answer.
We
Yep.
did receive a number of complaints about that sign.
Which one is the
wooden
actual
one?
WORT? The W.
Not the actual
Okay.
WORT, the white and black sign that was
Oh.
hand painted.
Okay.
With the eyeballs to the O.
Oh,
The one with the eyeball
yeah.
that's further down, that was further down the building.
The one that
Um,
Dan Cox made.
Yeah, there were several complaints from
Okay.
staff, volunteers, members of the public, donors about some imagery, although somewhat subtle, that is once pointed out is pretty obvious to see in the sign.
Oh. News to me, but
Are we,
Bye-bye.
I guess I never looked closely enough.
Okay. Okay.
I hesitate in the context of a board meeting to say exactly what it was because it's crude.
Okay. 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 Okay.
where's the sign now?
Right now it's on the back porch.
The deficit spot.
On the back porch. And it'll be retrieved by the artist.
Okay.
Yep,
We're
Dan
giving
wants
it
to
back.
look up.
Okay. Anything else then, Tom, you want to add?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Then moving on to Doug up next,
Yep.
business and events.
Yeah, there's lots. First, the Malthouse benefit was huge. A lot of people came out for the bluegrass, which was really exciting. And I've already have one confirmed band for next year for Woodstock because of it. Yeah, so and they're fantastic. Oh, they were so good. Woodstock this Sunday. It's in 4 days. We're pretty much ready. I think staff is having a meeting tomorrow at 1:30 on site to discuss final logistics. The volunteer shifts are being filled. The holes that are left are not critical. So Adrian's done a really good job with recruitment there. We have more vendors, more sponsors, and more interest, more PR than we've ever had before. So I'm really excited to make some big bucks this year because we have been really efficient at keeping expenses down this year.
And good weather.
So, and good weather. The weather looks fantastic. 78 and partly cloudy. It is perfect beer drinking weather. So,
Okay. Okay.
and then Fred Swanson from MHTG will be on Tony's Buzz tomorrow morning, as usual, to discuss all the beer offerings. Faye, who is in charge of our social media, along with being the evening news assistant, has done an unbelievable job of PR for Woodstock this year.
Yeah.
The posts are just, they're engaging, they're interesting.
They're beautiful.
She's been taking pictures. I have a whole document that I set up for her with different things that she can grab and use in the posts. And she just took it and ran.
Excellent.
It really has been a huge help having her for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've been increasing this week. So that's sort of giving some,
Yeah,
a sense of urgency.
it's really got that momentum and it's super exciting.
I also noticed that the Isthmus write-up about it gave us a nice heads up
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
being proactively ahead of time to get to move us to Warner Park, the up and coming hip north side now. And
Oh, awesome.
That's
and
good, it's affordable.
like,
I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I've been up to my eyeballs today.
we were ahead of the game on
Yeah.
hitting up the north side, which
Mhm.
really
Oh,
I mean, it was one of the critics. It was like, it's a paragraph. It's critics.
still,
Right.
I'll take it.
Well, also just putting in the critic's choice is
Yeah. Yeah.
good
Yeah.
to be there.
Well, and it, it's also we have a trade out with Isthmus. We had a half-page ad in this month's
Mhm.
Isthmus, which we trade out for on-air spots.
Yep.
And I'm sure the mutually beneficial financial arrangement had nothing to do with their kind words about you. Let me ask you a question about your report. Where to go?
What's in my report? I don't even remember.
Okay.
It's been so long.
Spruce Tree, Children's Museum, Mineral Point Opera House, Park Society, so those are all, when you say new contracts, those are contracts that those aren't renewals, those are
The only
new
renewal,
contracts?
yeah, the only renewal there is Spruce Tree.
Okay. But the rest are actually new contracts.
Our new
Yeah.
customer.
Cool, very good.
Mineral
Very
Point
good.
Opera House just
Or
opened up.
no, Mineral Point Opera House too. New contracts, old customer. Sorry.
Okay,
But they just opened that facility up.
Yeah, but we did shows for them last year. They
Okay.
started with us last year,
okay.
and came back because
They've been around.
they've been seeing a lot of value in the spots they run on our stations. So I think they've been getting increased audience as a result. So that's very exciting because then I take those little quotes go in my underwriting deck to get new ones.
Okay, I just lost my, is Susan with us?
Yeah, she was on.
Yeah.
Okay, Susan, anything you want to, call to our attention regarding your report?
No, the only thing is the request for people who are not hosts and are not in West Virginia to please consider signing up for phone answering shifts, because it's always hard to get phone answers for Saturday and Sunday in those shifts. Many of them are open. And I will say those are some of the busier shifts, so you probably won't be sitting around. And definitely Rock and John's show has a lot of openings, and that is very busy. So please, board members, we don't ask for money from you. We're grateful when we get it. We don't ask for you to fundraise with major donors and stuff, but it would be really helpful if you could help with the pledge drive.
And it's fun.
Thank you, Tanya.
It is.
Okay, anybody have any questions of Susan on any aspect on her report?
Nope.
None. Is Sybil with us?
Was.
Yeah, Sybil, anything? Okay, we do have.
Yeah,
an
I'm
action
here.
item. We do have an action item from Sybil regarding.
Well,
Don't
yeah,
even
I
know.
put that on there before the engineering committee meeting that I was at, last night. So, Laura, you can probably share the link with everyone. I haven't really had a chance to look at it very much, to see if there is anything else that we could benefit from, or access by paying that money from the offer that NFCB made, which is what I posted in my report.
So this is talking about a survey that Jacobs Media does every year. The main thing that I'm concerned about is that, see, we get free access to that survey through the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association. But it's not the public broadcasting survey. It is for commercial broadcasters. So I don't know how much difference there is, and how, if it's worth the $200 to see the public broadcasting. It'd be nice to compare the two before we make a blanket statement on that. But I pulled up a link to this year's commercial survey that I attended a couple of weeks ago, and I shared it with Sybil and Tom. I can share it with others if you're interested in seeing this. It is a very good survey. I look at it every year. It especially talks to the different ways people are getting their audio. So it talks about car dashboards, it talks about phones, it talks about all different forms of streaming, and it breaks it up by different age groups, and it does a really good job of it. It's a pretty thorough, usually about an hour webinar, but there's also a slide deck that's just a PDF. It'd be really easy to share the PDF with you, and if you're interested, I can send you the link to the video, the webinar.
What I'm, first of all, for this amount of money, and Sybil's, I'm reading a report, says it doesn't need budget approval, which I assume means we have the money for it.
$300 so they can.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's just looking for buy-in from the board and staff collective, which, to me, the more, it's not that much money, and the more information, the better. And if Sybil, honestly, if you think, and any other staff think it's worthwhile, I say go for it.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. It's like, it does look like there's some additional information, such as totals with your format and your local audience and key demographic breakouts. And I definitely want to share this with the programming committee. Even though it's not a lot of money, I just want to know that if we spend it, that people are going to look at it, because I've sent out like several things, because I'm always going to conferences and webinars and things like that, because of, to keep up with professional, information, the latest information. But if I just send out an email and go, this is great, you should look at it and, pay for it, I mean, I'm just not sure that people are going to go ahead and look at it. So I just wanted to bring it to people's attention and, say, okay, I'll spend the money. It'll be worthwhile if you will actually look at the information and try to use it. Because it's great, to be able to get information. That's what we want. So thanks.
Well, I doubt if I'll look at it, but if we do this, I'm expecting a report from staff that will then analyze the data that we get from them, and then make recommendations, and then that's what I'll look at. I don't like looking at stuff like this. So sure. I'm with Jeff saying, if it's useful to you and more data we get around information that we have a hard time getting, I expect you guys to use it and give us a report on what you're learning from it. I won't have time to do that, but I expect if we do this, you'll have time to do this, and you give us a report on its usefulness. Then I'm fine with it.
Laura.
Yes, Laura. Thank you.
I will definitely use, compare this with what we get for free from WBA. I'd like to see what differences there are, but I do make use of this survey. It is a technology survey after all.
I'm fine with this.
It sounds like you have sufficient buy-in from enough people to proceed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
don't take
I guess I was
comments as being
hoping like
negative.
other staff people, and stuff, whatever. I'll try to,
Well,
try to get people interested in it. So thanks. I'll let you know.
we got nothing to say
Well,
about it.
isn't that
Yeah.
a little bit?
Yeah.
Didn't we just say you should do
Yes,
it? And,
yes.
and that means
Good.
staff
Good.
should do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I'm trying to get buy-in from
I'm
other
interested. We just
staff.
said you're supposed
So
to do
I'll
it.
just do that. Okay. So thanks.
Moving on. I think Charlie's probably too busy doing stuff.
And Shelley's on.
Is Charlie on?
No.
No.
No. Did anybody, again, your news talk and public affairs team won some more awards from
Yeah.
WBA.
9.
WBA and although we got to take out these VMO people. VMO people, 2 years in a row, they won Station of the Year. I mean,
Who's VMO?
Monona.
It's a Monona.
It's a
But
low
there's-
frequency state.
Station of the year for what though?
Music.
No,
Say, we can't. The thing is that Shally has told me that you can only enter on either news and talk or music. So I can't enter any music programming or for Station of the Year or anything like that unless according to her, and maybe we can all, we can talk to the WBA folks, but it's great that the news volunteers and the, totally underpaid news staff can get all these awards. I mean, we do have the Whammy Awards and the Mama Awards, but well, we've already got to the Hall of Fame for the Mama, so we can't win that one anymore. But I'm perfectly willing to try to apply for it, but we don't apply for certain, for the music station of the year because ask Shally, she says you can't only do one or the other. And I don't know why that would be, but I guess that's how it is.
Okay,
We don't need to take VMO out.
okay. Lindsay Wood Davis is a
I
nice
think
guy.
we gave
Yeah,
him
We love them. They're brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
FRP goes on there.
But the fact that they're a government station, I don't know about that.
Oh,
Okay,
they owned by the city?
they're funded by the city.
I did
yeah,
not
yeah.
know
So
The mighty city of Monona.
Yeah, the mighty state of Monona.
The Sun is too.
Huh?
The Sun and Sun Prairie is too.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know about that.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments on Shally's report? He's probably, yeah. Then moving on to the volunteer outreach report, is Adrian with us? Yeah. Adrian, anything you want to call our attention to in your report?
Nope, I think it's pretty straightforward. Just kind of business as usual. It's picking up into the summer event season, so a lot more promotional exchanges, events, stuff like that. But I'm doing good over here.
I thought all in all, the reports were very informative and really good. So,
Yeah.
and they were pretty much all on time, so we appreciate that. They were good reports.
Mhm.
Very,
On behalf of the staff. Thank you.
Yeah, enthusiasm.
They're great.
Okay, then moving on to committee and work group reports, we have Laura, anything you want to say about the DEI committee reports?
Would you have engineering?
Oh,
first?
okay, I'm sorry. Well, okay,
You could give her a vote.
Tom, anything you want to say about the engineering committee report? Or not?
He's not
Let's do
on.
this
Oh, there
one
he
now.
is.
Yeah.
Tom's on.
There he goes.
There you
I'm here. My phone is just not cooperating. No, I can't. That's the problem. A lot of the engineering committee stuff overlaps with the other reports. So
go. Right.
it was a great meeting last night, actually. Very well attended, and we actually talked about a lot of stuff, and we're still on track for the second install of the new equipment at Combo B.
Okay. And is the training going as well as it should? I mean, we're getting everyone up and running on it?
It's getting there. There's a lot of music DJs now, maybe not a lot, but there's a good number that are broadcasting out of Combo A, mainly because then they got access to the turntables and functional queuing, and they're getting the training in there.
No risk of the board blowing up.
Yeah.
I
Actually,
wasn't gonna have a strike three.
yeah,
A little too exciting.
Jeff did his show out of there last Thursday. So
Yeah, and I'll be there tomorrow.
Right on.
Anybody have any questions of Tom on his report?
I'd like to add that we had a kind of surprise item on the agenda. We talked at length about our digital musical library and its, accessibility. How can DJs access what's actually in the library so that they can make use of it? It was a really good conversation.
Laura, do you mean from home or from the studio?
Even from the studio, how do DJs know what music is in the library?
It's on Music Bee. I don't understand.
People were asking about how to know what was in the library from home.
That I agree with. But there should be no issues. Music Bee is there. It's in the studio. It's easy to use. But
It could be easier to use, and I keep trying to, get a time to actually format it because it was just put in and there was not really designed in any way to make it, we didn't, move things around or hide them or highlight them that we use. And it has all these functions that we don't use or just weird things like it, automatic shuffle that are just you know, a very small little icon. If you don't turn that off, you know, you're in trouble. So you know, every time I get ready to sit down and like go over this, something happens like with the board or anyway. So, there's a couple things you can do. Like you could look at the library as it is in current time if you have music be installed at home, but it doesn't work with Mac. So that leaves out a bunch of people. And then, you know, you can just see what that is, but then the next time we update it, there's more stuff that you didn't know about. So we did have a great conversation. I'm really glad I brought it to you guys, and we're just going to keep working on it. But that's really what it's about, is people just wanting to know what's there. You know, and we want to
I do agree that in planning a show from home, knowing what's available on Music Key, not just when you show up, would be very useful.
And we,
Particularly, like I've had situations, you know, somebody dies the day before your show, you want to do something, maybe you don't have it in your collection. Does the station have it? And if you know that in advance, that can really be helpful.
we talked about making that data file
Yeah.
available
That would be
online.
great.
We
That would be
can't
great.
make the music available online, but we can make that data online.
And that would be a big step forward.
Mhm.
Well, then it was something that we did, but then it stopped happening when, I don't know, sometime after Aaron's job changed. And, you know, so it started by me talking to him about why can't we do this again? And he just mentioned some difficulties. So I thought I would bring it to the great hive mind. So yeah, we looks like we'll be able to do something soon, I hope.
Excellent.
Anything else on?
I think we're at DEI.
Okay, on engineering, seeing none. Laura, DEI.
Sure. Not a whole lot to talk about. We did have a meeting where we talked mostly about the survey. We got the results back from the survey. We had 96 responses, and we thought that was pretty good. Doug has volunteered to organize and quantify the results, and we're going to review those next meeting. We also talked about some of the written responses, the text responses that we got, and decided that we'd like to explore some of the issues that were raised in more depth. So we're going to try to, well, like I say, we need some time to digest the results. The survey closed just days before our meeting, so we really still need time to review all of this stuff. But that's it.
96 responses out of a universe of about 300.
Yeah,
That sounds pretty good.
It's not bad.
I'm happy with it. I'd like to see how we are going to overcome the oh, I'm forgetting now what it's called, but the self-report bias, I think, is what statisticians call it. It'll be interesting. We need to look at the report that comes back from Doug, and then see just how we're going to utilize this information.
Susan.
I was just wondering if there were plans originally, before, when I was a member of the committee, there were plans to also submit that same survey to the board and then separately to the staff. Are those still plans?
You mean
Well,
the
now you're
results?
talking about the work group plans.
Right, and I'm asking, is the committee still plan to follow through with submitting the survey to the board to answer?
Oh,
And the staff, the originally back in the work group, we were going to have submitting to the volunteers, submitting to the board, submitting to the staff. The makeup of our volunteers we'd like to know about, but the makeup of the board as it compares to the census and to our community is important too, as is the staff.
of
And there is
course.
some crossover too.
Right. Yeah, we actually did discuss that in our meeting.
And to be honest with you, I don't recall. I know that that was our intent, but I don't recall exactly what we said. So if one of the other members wants to chime in.
Yeah, from the meeting, we agreed that we do need to do separate surveys, both to the board and to the staff, to get those demographics as well. And I think we can expect a much higher rate of return on those. Just basically because, you know, the investment is higher if you're a board member or a staff member. So one thing that didn't come up in the meeting, because it was a very quick discussion about it, was that we may want to wait until after the board election to do a board level one, because I already know that we're going to have 2 new board members,
Yeah, that
because
makes
2 existing board members did not submit applications and other people have.
Okay, then let's
So-
absolutely wait.
Right. So I think, you know, once July comes is when we would see a staff or a board level one. The staff one, we could probably do at any point because there's not a lot of turnover right now.
And since we're segregating the groups that are surveyed, I take it that people who are on the board as volunteers and who have filled out the survey as a volunteer should still fill one out as a board member, because it's a
Yeah.
different demographic.
Right, because you're a member of both
Yeah.
groups and we're looking for
Yeah.
the numbers of the group. The individual parts don't matter
Yeah.
in that sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I think, Laura, that's what we should do, is get it to staff anytime, but wait till giving it to the board till after the elections.
Sure.
Um,
And then by that point, I'll have the tabulations done on the volunteer answers.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a little problem with the CSV export because I can see the yes, no, but I don't know what question it referred to.
Yeah.
So I have to go back to the original questionnaire in order to pull the data correctly. But
okay.
Were you able to get that from Tom?
yes.
Great.
Oh no, I'm going back to the original email to actually go into the questionnaire itself, because that will give me the answers. Or the
Okay.
questions, which are the answers.
Well, as Franklin writes, so the search for the question is the
Sounds like
answer.
a beta band song.
Okay, you need a rest.
Sounds like a bad poem.
I do need a rest real
Okay,
bad.
well, you just make it through this meeting. Um,
I can guarantee that.
Okay, policies and bylaws, we had a full frank discussion of the, well, we were making great progress. Jay has got us, like on a work schedule, trying, knock out certain pages. So we're making great progress on the volunteer handbook, and we had a full and frank and very productive discussion of the various bylaws proposals. So it was a very good meeting, I thought.
Yeah, agreed.
And we're making progress. Personnel committee is, I think, with just one outstanding, was one staff interview yet to be conducted. I think we pretty much met our deadline of getting the interviews and the evaluations done on time. I don't think not all the reports have been written, but a number of them have. And my sense, Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, but my sense is that staff believes this has been a productive and a useful exercise.
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we are eager to hear any comments of where you think the process can be improved.
I've seen,
Yeah, and
you're
I,
not asking for that
No,
necessarily.
not
immediately.
right now.
no, but
yeah.
yeah, and I think some staff may have responses to their summaries.
Okay,
I know I haven't had an opportunity
Okay.
to formulate.
there's no,
One
yeah,
to
there's
mine
there's no
or-
deadline on it. I mean.
Yeah,
But yeah, and I found out I now know where the personnel files are, and I know where the key is, and I know where the lock is.
excellent.
So we're making progress.
Excellent. That's great.
But what we need is my printer's on the fritz, so I can't print stuff, but we need them printed out so they can be hard copies, can be put in the P files, and then staff can make whatever comments.
You have
they
a
want.
question on that.
Yeah.
Did you mean just the summary or both pieces?
I don't think we need you to print out the staff comment, the volunteer comments that we sent you.
And with the number of things from the fellow staff,
No, because we've got that. We need the evaluation,
the summary.
the summary evaluation and any response that you make.
Perfect. Okay. I have two of them.
Okay, great. And
Although, what if the responses aren't done yet?
whenever,
Submit
When
those
they're ready.
later.
whenever.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Um,
I'll get those together.
okay. Anything you want to add on the personnel committee
No.
stuff, Tanya?
I was really pleased that we got it together and we did it.
Yeah,
And it was really,
it was a big accomplishment.
really pleasing to be able to meet with the staff and give feedback and hear, just have reports.
And whether or not we use I don't know that we need to use exactly this process next year because we're not going back 10 years. But I think unless staff has some suggestions on structural changes, I think we were happy with the process as it turned out. But we'll see if staff has
Yeah, I
structural
mean-
suggestions.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't speak for fellow
Yeah.
staff, but I think overall it was a good process.
Okay.
think Laura's got
At
it.
some point, could you get them to have them funnel any suggestions through you just to let us know if there are structural changes you want
Great.
to make? Okay.
Mhm.
Laura has some.
Laura,
I wanted to, so I sort of consider this to be a baseline survey because, or evaluation, because we haven't had one for so long. And what I would really look for next year is the goals that were set this year and what kind of progress was made by each staff member towards those goals.
thank you. Anybody else have anything?
Sybil says she has a number of suggestions.
Okay. I don't think we're in the,
We just need to have those in writing and
yeah,
we'll take them.
yeah. Sybil, why don't you reduce those to writing and
Yep.
Okay.
Give them
and
to
then-
Doug, right? You
Yeah,
said,
we'd love to have your feedback. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And feel free to seal it if you want, along with, like you did with the other part. If you just want it to go to the personnel committee,
no, it's general suggestions I think are helpful to anyone.
right on.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay. Programming committee. Okay,
Yeah, sure.
anything?
Yeah, we met this month. We looked at a new show proposal, which opened up a pretty good discussion about our Sunday slate of shows. And there's some holes there that we're actively looking at filling, and that's going to be the basis of our discussion next month. But like Hmong Radio hasn't, we got some new volunteers to be able to produce half of the show, which is much better than, just playing reruns, which has been the case for a long time now. But we also have some other hosts and guests that are just hosts of shows that aren't interested in continuing their own shows. And so yeah, but we're gonna have some more proposals by next month, and hopefully have some more fully 24/7 live programming on Sundays.
Cool.
So yeah.
Anybody have any questions or comments on that?
Is there a written copy of the programming committee report?
No, there's not.
Okay.
Yeah. Do we have any policy around programmers not being able to produce a show and then rely on old shows being replayed for an extended period of time? Do we have a policy about that, and should we have one?
I don't know if we have a
I think
policy
that's
on
the
that.
question for
but
Sybil.
Yeah,
Sybil,
so Sybil
did
might.
you hear the question?
Well, and it's not just for me because what you were talking about was Hmong Radio, right? So, it's not just music shows, by the
Right.
way.
No,
Right.
yeah.
And,
Yeah,
I mean, it's especially with we didn't really have a hard and fast policy that we couldn't really during the pandemic because it was like various reasons why people would need to record from home or why they would not be able to do a recording at all, why they were, getting up to speed or, their computer crashed, all kinds of things like that. So that, we didn't really have anything hard and fast that we could, that we wanted to enforce. But part of what we're talking about is resulting from people. There's at least one music host that, you know, I'm thinking there isn't really a good reason. Every time I hear is it's some different reason that they, you know, aren't doing show, and they just don't really care. They would be more than happy to have someone else take over doing the show, you know. And so yeah, they don't come in live. You know, we sometimes during pledge drive.
Asking Sybil, I understand. That's a different question. My question was specifically about programmers' inability to provide new programming and relying on old recorded shows for an extended period of time.
Okay, so that is not happening with most music shows, except for I think now like the Tuesday overnight show, because you know that person ceased creating new shows in the past few months. So
This is a yes or no question.
We don't have a
yeah,
policy.
but what is
about
the
doing
exact question? I mean, do we have a
question
policy?
Is there
do we
a
have-
policy or
yeah.
no?
Do we have a policy around a time limit on how many, an occasional blip, someone gets sick, computer breaks
Yeah,
up?
no,
the
we
computer.
don't have a policy
Get
around a
that.
time
What
limit.
about
I never had to encounter that before the pandemic. So
Maybe then,
how would you
my
suggest we go
question
about it?
to you, Jay, would be, put this on the agenda, and should there be a policy about where, or an extended period of time of only bringing in old shows? How long should we allow that to continue? Put it on your agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah, but that's mainly been the case with the Hmong radio show, and it was those.
That's irregardless of, I'm not picking on one show. It's about a global issue about it. Someone's repeatedly doing it, then should we have a policy about it?
Okay, and I just want to say that, you know, this music host this just happened with, the Hmong radio show had been going on for a while, and the hosts were not planning to return. We were just filling a time slot while we were struggling to either move it around or recruit new hosts for that show or change the show.
Yeah.
So
I got it.
That's where it came from. So thank you.
I got it, and it wasn't a question around the Hmong show particularly. It's a larger issue.
Yeah, just saying that it just, you know, we never had to deal with it before, so we didn't have a
Doug's got the floor,
Yeah,
Sid.
you said, Doug.
Yeah, I just want to say that in considering any sort of policy, take in mind that some shows serve very specific communities.
Yeah.
Communities of color, communities that are LGBT, and any broad policy restricting the ability to play pre-recorded shows, even evergreen shows that are serving a specific community. I think there's a danger there that we want to watch out for. That's all I'd like to say.
Yeah.
So as an exception to a policy.
And we should include that in the policy.
Okay.
Speaking as a DEI committee member.
Then moving on to the mural project. Bill.
Sorry, I was muted. The report I submitted last week summarizes the current situation, which is that the mural work group is on hiatus because we don't have the money to go forward with any work in 2024, and there is now a proposal that we should focus instead on exterior repairs using the facade improvement grant. And I think at that point, it's difficult to even say that we would be in a position to go forward next year. So I don't know what possible timeline there would be for replacing the mural on the exterior of the building.
Well, my assumption is that if we get a facade improvement grant that doesn't include the mural, then the mural is going to either, because of the repairs to the facade, look really horrible, or it will need to get painted over completely. So it is my hope that that would be just a temporary situation. And I'm certainly, I thought I'd have time to get involved in the mural project committee, and I didn't. And so, I'm not, it's not like I've, put lots of work into it, but I said this a number of meetings ago, I think, Stu, when you had some skepticism, and I really believe that as much work as the 50th anniversary is going to be, that celebrating it with a beautiful new facade would, I think they're actually in sync, just philosophically. Now, I'm not, whether we have the person power to do all of that is another story. But in terms of how that looks to the Madison community, to say we're celebrating, and one of the ways we're celebrating is ta-da. To me, this year I don't care about it. I get it. It's not happening this year, and that's not a big deal to me.
Be a great capital campaign.
I believe so.
Whenever we could do it. I want to piggyback on Jeff's comments about doing repairs on the building and what Phil was saying. And in one way, we have to prepare the canvas, and
Right.
by doing repairs and then painting the whole thing white with a really strong and good high quality undercoater, which then the mural. So if we got money for that and did the repairs, and I have painted for a living, and I can get 3 volunteers. So the undercoater painting, the repairs we want a pro to do, but there is a cost savings in some volunteers that know how to paint that we could probably get. So preparing the outside of the building before the end of this summer may be a possibility. It might be on our list of being able to do it. And then we prepare it for next year. And so that's one way we should consider it as a possible way to go to continue at least the effort, and hopefully figure out a way to get to merging the mural and our 50-year birthday, and including certainly a capital campaign to go with that.
Phil, where are we at on the text of the letter to the existing donors? Is that still being drafted and reviewed and reconsidered? And
So that is a very tricky question, because I created draft language and Susan reviewed it, and I sent it to the volunteers who conducted the fundraising, and they are fine with the vast majority of the language. However, they would like it to specifically include the fact that WORT is committing to use their funds for a mural only and not general exterior improvements, which is the way Susan and I both left the language. And unfortunately, I think that's the reason I'm guessing Jonathan Cooper contacted you, Stu, is that his concern is that if we don't specifically say that these funds are for a mural, he is not interested in communicating with donors and would prefer that message to come from either myself or the board in general, or I really don't know.
Susan?
His preference is to mention that the donations will be used for a mural, and unfortunately, I don't know when we will be in a position to honor that commitment.
Thank you. Susan?
So the usual thing when you have set a timeline, like we did with telling the people that it was going to be a mural for this year, when you can't meet one of those things that you've committed to, is to go back to your donors and say, this isn't going to happen. Here's what we can do. We can refund your money. There should also always be an offer to refund. They should always have the right to take their money back because we're not meeting a certain restriction. And then you can also offer them an alternative. because we don't know when the mural is going to happen, both Jay and I wanted the alternative to be that the money could be put toward an exterior maintenance fund. It wasn't my opinion. Most of these people that contributed the money didn't contribute it necessarily for a mural, but because they were, interested in helping WORT in some way. They don't have to accept our offer to do the maintenance, but that's something that really is going to happen. We know it's going to happen. It needs to happen.
So,
it's go ahead.
why is it that Jonathan Cooper, I understand he's been very helpful, and I understand he's, if not currently, was the chair of the neighborhood association. But in the end of the day, WRT is the one who has to communicate to these people. So I say it's up to the committee, and as chaired by Phil, staff, it sounds like Susan helping, and not up to Jonathan. His input's important, but he's not a decision maker here.
I like Susan's suggestion.
Okay, Dan and Tanya.
I've got a weird thing, but it's relevant to this committee. There's a Madisonian artist named Jillian Talarczyk who's gone out to New York to become an art dealer. She's a millionaire because she's done quite well. She sent me this thing. I think I held up that package to everyone. It was an article from the Wisconsin State Journal about another mural that she had done down the street. Jill was back in town this week because she'd done a mural in Fitchburg, and I brought her down here to look at the exterior and like walk around. Jill said that she would entertain the idea of sitting on the committee as like an advisor and someone who like does, it's from Madison, but also like does murals for like a living and stuff. She's very good at fundraising and selling art, but also the, physically making murals in Wisconsin and New York and other places aspect. Bill, her name's Jillian, Jillian, Talarczyk, Talarczyzyk. She's going to be back in town next weekend too, and as someone who could from the way she was talking while she was here. In fact, I think a couple folk with Mary Joy saw her for a minute. Like she was down, here, we hung out here for an hour. But she's the kind of person, if she became interested enough, could theoretically both pay for the production of and perform the production of the mural if she got interested enough.
We appreciate that, but what we need to decide now is, actually, the first question is, do we need to decide right now what that letter says? Are we delegating to Susan and Phil to come to a consensus and write that letter? Or, yeah, Tanya?
I think it's important to give the donors agency and choice when it comes to how the money is used. And I think your idea is very good. Making sure that they can choose what they want to do with their money. And if they just want to support the station no matter what, they're probably going to say, hey, keep it.
Let's give them the option.
Yeah, giving them the option is very, very important.
So Susan and Phil, apart from Jonathan, is there consensus on what that letter should say and how it should read?
I don't know that it's Phil, did you present it to the mural work group?
Not to the entire work group. I presented it to the board as part of my mural report. I reported it. I shared it with both Patrick and Jonathan because as the fundraisers, they wanted to be included in any contact with those donors. And to be perfectly honest, the rest of the mural committee is not going to be helpful. They haven't participated in any of the fundraising, and they are going to make suggestions and expect me to incorporate them. And it's just gonna further muddy the water with a lot more back and forth.
Susan, do you and Phil have a meeting of the minds on what the letter should say?
I would like to take one more shot at it after hearing a little bit of Jonathan's reaction and make it I think it can be a little bit better, but I'm an endless editor, so I usually have to set a time limit for me for when I have to stop editing. But I think by the end of this week, we could have something that I feel very comfortable is very good for the donors, and will sound good to them, and will accomplish what we want to accomplish. And I think Phil's been very helpful with that. And I think between the two of us, we could get that out the end of this week.
Just for the sake of it, could you, and who's it going to come from?
That's
Phil?
not my call.
Okay.
I'm
Um,
happy to put my name on it as the current chair of the committee.
Okay, just for the sake of it, could you give
The
us?
only reason I crafted it with Jonathan and Patrick is that they had asked specifically that the letters come from them.
Okay, just for the sake of it, could you give the board a day or two to review it before you send it out?
I have no problem with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, okay, so let's proceed that way then, just because we don't need to do anything tonight, but we should know what we're doing. And I agree with Jeff, and I think Dean said this too, that to have this as part of our 50th, I think it goes well. I think having this as part of the big celebration and a nice visualization of the success and the strength of the station is a good thing. So as I understand it, the work group is on hiatus till the fall, but that doesn't mean that individually we're going to stop working and thinking about it, because I think it ultimately is worth doing. Susan, is your hand still up or just not been taken down yet?
No, took it down, put it back up. Just a real quick comment.
Yeah.
There's always major donors. When I was at Dane County Humane Society, they wanted me to contact Ellen DeGeneres because she was a big animal supporter and get her money. There's always big donors, people that you think we can get money from, but often it comes down to a capital campaign. And I just want to point out that next year I am going to be busy trying to make sure that the journalism project doesn't become a one-off, which involves getting a lot of money for that. And so there's a real time commitment and a choice that the board needs to make about where my fundraising efforts are directed, because I think it became evident to me with the fundraising project that unless you're a professional fundraiser, that people that do it as amateurs, they contact their friends, they get money from their friends, and then they're left kind of trying to figure out, how do we raise this money? And I think you're going to need input from me or Doug and I. And I think that's a board decision about what's most important, a journalism collaborative or a mural.
Okay.
There's going to have to be decisions made down the line. I just want to point that out. There is not endless time on the part of fundraising here at WORT to keep all the balls in the air and the money going for what we need. That's all.
I assume that will in part inform how you draft the letter.
Yeah, I'd like to make one quick suggestion on the letter. This letter does not even hint that we may, if I'm reading it correctly, that we hope to do the mural in the future. And while I 100% agree that we should not put a new deadline there, because that'll just get us potentially into the same trap, I would at least include that kind of aspirational, because that may, and I would even suggest that the line about preparing the exterior is a necessary predicate. I wouldn't use that word, but you know what I mean, to doing a mural anyway. And I'm hoping that with adding those couple of lines will convince most, if not all, of the donors to just let us keep the money.
Okay. Phil.
Yeah, in addition, piggybacking on what Susan just said, I need to stress, I am not a professional fundraiser. I consider myself a professional grant writer, having done that for just under a decade, but those are not the same skill sets by any means. So while I'm perfectly comfortable writing grant proposals such as the facade improvement grant or any other funding opportunity that I'm made aware of, it's not the same as conducting a capital campaign. That's one issue. The second is that and I don't want to make it sound like I'm dumping all this on Tom's plate, but honestly, I'm not in a position in West Virginia to contact Ayers Contracting or any other local contractors about the steps that would be involved in repairing and putting a clean coat of paint on the exterior of the building. My understanding from discussing this with him is that he did not think there was going to be a seasonal availability this year.
Right.
Whether that's still the case, there's also the fact that I don't think WRT has the money for that in the budget this year. And so those are all discussions that I think the board needs to consider
Right.
before really making active announcements about a future mural, whether it's next year or
Those
ever.
are just, that's information we need, which we don't have right now. So we will get, I mean, we don't need to, there's nothing we need to do tonight. Correct?
No, except I guess Susan and I will include the language that Jeff just suggested and refine further, and then send to, do you want us to send it to you, Stu, or to the board entirely
Into the board.
to
Send it to the
review?
board.
So
Yeah,
we
I
will
mean,
send it to the entire board
otherwise-
for review before it gets sent out.
And I would suggest like a
Yeah.
short deadline, like a week or less for board members to give whatever input
Yeah.
they might give. And if they don't, they don't.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on. I realize that Jeff has called my attention that I skipped the elections committee report and the CAB report. The elections committee report is important. Doug.
Mhm. We've got applicants.
Okay.
Yay.
So many that we do not have to do a special election.
Yay.
Both categories have contested seats.
Whoa.
Hello?
So we have 2 listener sponsor candidates for 1 seat, and we have 3 participating member candidates for 2 seats.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm relieved. In some years we've had to extend the deadline
Yes.
because
Right.
not enough people.
Yes.
They must have all
And
come in at the end, huh?
2 or 3 within the last couple of days.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I will say staff recruitment efforts were really helpful.
Okay.
Good.
Rebecca, is one of those applications from you?
Sorry, I was tying my son's tie. Say that
Okay.
again?
Was one of those applications for election from you?
No, it was not.
Oh. Oh, we're sorry about that.
I mean,
Oh,
I probably can still try to do that. It's just these past 2 weeks have been a lot going on. My father had cancer surgery
sorry.
twice this month. My stepdaughter had knee surgery. You name it. It's just been kind of hitting us. So everything's been shaved very thin as far as where my time can be spread out with everything. So I can still try to put that in.
When's the
Well,
deadline?
No, the deadline was 5 o'clock today.
Yeah. It's
Oh, 5. Oh,
Yeah, the window was closed.
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
Well, the window's closed.
sorry.
Hmm.
There's always next year.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe you need a break.
This could be true. This could be true.
Kind of
But I'm
sounds
not
like.
going anywhere. But I'm not
Okay.
going anywhere else. So can't
There's
get rid of me,
also
Daddy.
Programming
Yeah.
committee, programming committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, programming. committee.
Programming.
Yeah.
I'll point you to anything.
Right, right. Okay, we'll talk. We'll talk for sure. We'll talk.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we hope you'll,
Who's the other person? What's the other open seat? Who's
Ty.
Guy?
Yeah, Kai.
That was my suspicion, but
I didn't run either.
yeah,
Okay.
not surprised.
Well, we hope you'll be at the meeting next month so we can give you a proper send off.
Absolutely. And this
Hey.
year, technically is like, it's marking my 15th year being at Wart. So it's a big year all around.
Well done, you.
Well, thank you, thank you. Anything from the cab?
They'll meet tomorrow,
Okay,
and I don't have anything else to.
okay. Then I don't think there's any old business. I want to skip over the board staff retreat because we need to discuss the bylaws amendments, because the bylaws say that the board is to make a recommendation to the membership on how we feel, how we would like them to vote on the proposed amendments. And I apologize for the fact that there has been a flurry of emails and written statements, even as late as this afternoon, but that's because I met with staff yesterday and we've had, I thought, very productive back and forth. I think the simplest way to structure this is if you could call up to start, if you could call up the document that's called that's my suggested amendments. I think that's the simplest way to start. Now then segue into staff. So people, that's in the folder. So if people have that, do we have a way of, do people who are online need us to try and share the screen? I'm not sure how to do that.
We don't have the documents pulled up there to share
Okay.
anyway.
Well,
it'd take a little doing. I think we could do it. but-
I think things are in bite size. I think the pieces are bite size enough that we can proceed. So let me just start going through it. The first proposal I had was to amend section 3.4 term of office, which says the terms of directors shall be 3 years in length, commencing blah, blah, blah. The section I would add is this section does not apply to the staff representative on the board because that director's term is not 3 years in length. That director's term is whatever the staff determines it is. So Doug, the staff had no comment on that, so I assume that that's okay, that you agree with that clarification?
I don't know. I can't even find like the staff response.
Well,
or-
the staff response did not address it, so I took it to
So
mean,
I believe you're correct.
I mean, because otherwise there'd be confusion about your status on the board, because it says director shall be 3 years in length.
Right.
You're not.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would hope that the board would recommend adoption of that proposed change to 3.4. Is there,
So the meaning is that the collective will decide who is going to be the staff representative to the board. And it can be the same person more than 3 years in a row.
that the existing bylaws say that staff chooses its own representative.
Yep.
So this is to have the section on term of office
Yep.
conform to that.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the minimum term, in case you're wondering,
Yeah.
for staff rep is 3 months.
Can I ask a
So a
question?
staff, that's so we can't like switch off month by month,
Right.
and that would be kind of counterproductive.
Yes.
Can I ask a process question?
Yes.
It is my understanding, but I've never been through this before, it's my first year on the board, that whatever the bylaws, some version of bylaws amendments will be in front of the members who come to the annual meeting, correct?
Don't they also get it through?
They will
mail?
be in the electronic ballot
Okay.
that goes out May 30th,
Right, so-
and then there's a
so-
30-day
so
voting
the-
window.
So they will vote on that.
Yeah.
My question is, do they come with the board, or the board and staff recommends these?
Yes. That's
Not on the ballot, no.
oh, it's no,
It is
Okay.
not part of the ballot. The ballot contains the proposed amendments.
well,
So they have to read it separately.
well, there's at some point, the bylaws say that the board makes a recommendation.
Yeah, and you do that through emailing Volanauts.
Okay.
Yeah, we can publicize it through the list
Okay.
terms.
Right,
But we
you're
can't-
right. You
but
send the
we-
email
but we
through the
vote on
listserv,
that.
as I
We
imagine
only-
staff will too.
Okay, so my question then for tonight
Yeah.
is the goal of tonight's discussion to determine which, if any, I assume there will be some. Bylaws, we as a board are going to recommend
Yes,
to the membership.
yes.
That's what I
Okay.
understood.
All right, good.
That's the exercise.
I needed that cleared
Right,
up in my
I'm sorry,
head.
that's the exercise.
And while staff and Doug will have input, it's a board vote. I assume
Yes.
we will actually vote on each
Yes.
of these.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think it makes sense to vote on them one by one as we go through.
Right.
So, and I'm going to try and do this by unanimous consent if we get. Is there
Of course,
is there
that's
any,
the goal.
is there
if we
any
can.
objection to recommending a positive vote for adding the phrase, "This section does not apply to staff representative on the board," to make this term of office conform to the fact that the collective chooses its representative and is not a 3-year term.
No objections.
We're good on that? Okay, very good. Moving on. The next proposal I had was an amendment to 3.9 to change the phrase hire and supervise persons to manage stations operations. And
This is the board of directors shall.
Board of Directors shall hire and supervise persons to manage station operations. And I changed that to paid staff. The board may delegate to full-time staff the authority to hire and supervise part-time staff. My intent in doing that was to make clear, to delegate to staff the authority to hire and supervise part-time staff, which they do already, because I didn't think from the text of the existing bylaws, they had that authority. Staff's concern is that the phrase manage station operations necessarily refers only to them, and that part-time staff do not manage station operations, and that this somehow confuses the situation, and they would be much more supportive. They want the existing language retained and operate as things now under the existing language. I see
Are they
that-
okay with adding the new sentence about delegating?
No,
to-
no, because they're concerned that the conditional may implies that there may be instances where we would hire a part-time staff that they then had to supervise, which they think would be a very bad idea, which they're probably right would be a very bad idea.
I agree, but
So on the basis of the colloquy that I had back and forth, I'm going to withdraw that proposed amendment.
Okay.
So I assume there's no objection.
you're the one who
Agreed.
drafted it.
Okay.
If you're withdrawing it, it's withdrawn.
Right, yeah.
And then we can just,
Take back
It's also
the law.
magnanimous.
we'll
Yes.
just continue on with current
Nice.
practice.
Yeah, there's no change to 3.9. Moving on, there's a restrictions. It currently says the staff representative on the board is not eligible to serve as an officer. I am proposing to change that to read, no employee or contractor of the corporation may serve as an officer. Because the bylaws do allow for part-timers to be elected to the board. And there shouldn't be, and we shouldn't have contractors serve as officers.
And it's
So
a
this
conflict
just
of interest.
struck me as a good governance thing. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, the staff suggested a friendly amendment of even stronger language to say no one currently paid by Back Porch Radio Broadcasting.
That to me is a contract. That's what the contractor phrase implies. That's what I think. That's what I meant by that.
Right, but I meant it covered both employees and contractors.
Like we wouldn't accept a sheet.
You know, like
From,
current employees and current contractors. I mean, it's basically the same
I
language.
think those that's a
sounds-
nuance. They're different words,
Any
but
person
there's no
receiving
different
payment
meaning.
from.
My
So
question,
I mean, I personally am okay with either one.
my question is, and I realize this is under Article 4 officers, but it's only limited to officers. So are we saying, or are we going to change it somewhere else that employee, well, we do have an employee as the staff representative on the board,
Mhm.
but what about contractors? Can they serve on the board? They just can't be an officer,
Yeah, I mean that.
but they meet the other criteria of being a listener.
They
to
do their
the
job.
whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I mean they probably won't be a contractor once they're on the board because,
It's a conflict of interest.
but I
Mhm.
mean I don't have a problem with somebody.
They could choose that.
Yeah.
Well, but then
Yeah.
if you're saying that, then I think what we're really saying is you can't be a contractor and be on the board. Okay, because we're going to tell you that if you get elected, we're going to tell you your contract's over. And, you know,
Yeah.
Well, then I would
They're not gonna move to the
maybe
well, either way,
Right.
either
we
way.
should offer
So my point
add a
is-
word here.
Well, this is under the section under officers. So if we were to, it would probably need to be in the, somewhere in the board eligibility.
Well, let me
What's
just
your
have,
word?
let me
Yeah.
just have my little, I think by not saying WRT paid contractor, we're eliminating anyone who's a contractor who has never worked for a Wharton.
No, contractors of the corporation is the phrase.
Oh, that include, okay, of the corporate. No,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if
Is
we're
the
Yeah,
paying-
we're
word-
not talking about a guy who's a plumber
No.
Yeah.
who,
okay.
who doesn't do any work for us.
Does the
Well,
word
that
current
means that
appear in
contract's
your
paid by us. they
Right,
can't
yeah.
be-
versions too?
No, what I have
Because
is,
I think what our intent was to add the word current so that past employees and past
oh,
contractors
well,
wouldn't be limited.
That's necessarily implied. I mean, employee
Okay.
means
Yes,
current, contractor
I
means current.
agree with Stuart.
Okay,
I'm good with this.
And
think
maybe
we
I'm
all
just
agree
throwing a
on the
wrench in the
intent.
works and I don't
Yeah.
mean to.
Yeah.
as does staff.
Yeah.
And it
yeah.
may need to happen
Makes good
somewhere
sense.
else, and maybe we do it
Yeah.
next year when we have more time to look at where we would
Yeah.
put that. I think it would go in the eligibility section.
Mhm.
I mean, now is the time that if people want to
Well, we could have,
redefine eligibility and say, no paid contractor, to eliminate paid contractors, now's the time to make that proposal, if you want to.
I mean, we could make it G, you know. And we can even say as because it is, you know, due to the conflict of interest,
Yeah.
no paid contractor shall serve on the board of directors. Which could also, by the way, if we had a current board member who, I don't know, wants to paint a mural and
No.
but would
No.
then have to say, in order for me to do that and be paid, not as a volunteer, I need to step off the board.
Well, hold on, I disagree. Conflicts of interest happen like that occasionally. And to your example, competent mural artist sitting on the board says, I'll do the mural and I'll do it half price and everyone else,
No,
No,
or
we have
some,
to
or
assign-
does a
Nope,
plumbing
nope.
thing
Nope,
and
have
said,
to
hey, I'll
assign.
do that for
nope,
cost
nope,
only.
nope,
No.
We have to
no,
tell them,
no, no.
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 I mean, if they volunteer, that's a different story. They say,
Yeah,
I'll do
but
it for
otherwise
free.
it's a conflict.
Yeah,
Then
I mean,
well, yeah, it's a conflict of interest
Dean,
if we don't
there's
know
gonna be
about it.
problems with the CPB or somebody
Yeah,
if we are paying members of the board of directors to
At all.
do stuff.
Anything.
I mean, the fact
Yeah.
that we got a better deal from them, you can't do it. You just can't.
Okay,
Even
Um,
reimbursements are kind of a no-no.
Mhm, mhm.
all right.
That's why I'm going with you to get the chip for the drone so that I can
Yeah,
pay for it and
exactly.
get reimbursed.
Yeah, we're not gonna spend $16, you know.
Want me to
Do I
draft
think-
something
do I
in
think-
this?
No
Or
person
you could have
who,
$16.
no person receiving
Yeah.
payment from the corporation as a contractor is eligible to serve on the board?
I think that's fine.
did this go from board officer to board?
Well, it's a
It's
separate,
just
No,
for
it's
the
in a separate
contractor,
section. So,
adding a section for contractors only to say that people paid by work cannot serve on the board. Well, only being specific about contractors because I do get paid by work.
right.
I'm
We
the
have this,
exception.
it's a separate, so that's
No,
why
no,
we're saying
no non-employee.
contractor. That even, no employee's a contractor. I don't think you have to worry that you use that.
No, but we can't say no person. We either have to say no non-employee or no contractor. Want to say no
I would say
contractor?
no paid contractor.
No paid contractor.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah,
definitely
that's it.
different than an employee.
Okay.
Right, and it's also different than a volunteer. who
Contract.
may-
Right,
you know,
part-timers who-
Theoretically, it might be a contract.
And part-time employees
Okay.
who are also volunteers are eligible to.
Right,
Right,
okay.
right.
So the motion is to add a paragraph G to 3.2 reading, no contractor paid by the corporation is eligible to serve on the board.
We're doing this as a motion?
Yeah, this is, yeah, no,
Well,
con-
Yeah,
Yeah, no contractor who is paid by the corporation is eligible to serve on the board. Everybody got that?
Yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Supported.
Yep.
Okay. And then I still think there's a need for the, oh, then it should just
Should we
say
just-
no employee is eligible, no employee may serve as an officer.
oh, because we've already
Because we
taken
did-
out the
Yeah,
contractor
yeah, so
problem.
yeah.
Right.
So we're gonna amend 4.2B to read, no employee is eligible to serve, may serve as an officer.
Simple.
It's cleaner.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good with that? I hear yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one I had was 5.2C, adding the phrase to the Personnel Committee definition. The committee shall also oversee negotiations to establish staff's wages, hours, and conditions of employment. Staff was concerned that that was improperly disregarding the union's role. Negotiations, in my mind, necessarily imply that there's another side, but I've no objection to adding the phrase with staff's union. So it reads, the committee shall also oversee negotiations with the staff's union to establish staff's wages, hours, and conditions of employment. And I think staff's good with that.
I believe so, unless I see a
I
hand.
mean, I'm amending it to
mean,
agree with what.
Yeah, this
what-
all happened fast, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so that's 5.2C.
Yeah, and I wasn't privy to policies and bylaws, so
Yeah.
I haven't made it all the way
Yeah.
through this conversation yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
so-
but this.
Yeah,
was-
no.
Yeah, we're good on
Yeah,
that.
we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to hold this up.
The next one was, then in paragraph D, I proposed changing the word persons to directors, because I thought, but it was pointed out to me when I met with staff yesterday that the finance committee is not limited to just directors, and in fact does include non-director persons. So I withdraw my 5.2D.
It's my eagle eye.
Huh?
Affirm.
What?
My eagle eye.
Oh, yeah, well, it was good.
Shelley.
So are we going to vote on these at the end, or are we going to do these as we go along?
I've kind of been calling for unanimous consent as we've been going along.
You're supposed to protest as you
Yeah,
go, Laura.
were the ones that you wanted me to go back to, Laura? The ones that you-
No, I just want to make sure I know where we're headed here. That's all.
Yeah, well, I've been,
Deanna, are you noting what, I think the most important thing is that the minutes reflect.
We've
What-
got some of it. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the
well,
tape. and,
I've
like,
got,
build-
I'm taking
Okay.
notes.
Oh, yeah, if you are
taking
too,
Okay.
I can take a picture of that
Yeah.
metal.
Good.
Well, no, you
Save
can't.
me.
take a
I
picture.
do kind of, I think you're moving a little quickly, so maybe
Okay.
after each one,
Okay,
take a pause
okay,
and say, do I have
Okay.
unanimous consent?
Really?
okay.
And, you know,
Staff concurs on adding on this phrase, adding with the staff's union. So I think, so we had.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
we're on the next one.
Okay, so, okay, the next one
Yeah.
is, it was called to my attention by
What you withdraw.
Susan and the staff that there are non-directors serving on finance, so I withdraw that. I can't imagine anybody's gonna protest my withdrawing that. The next item is 5.3. I proposed changing the word decisions to actions, because I didn't know exactly what decisions meant. It says the board retains the right to review, amend, or reverse all decisions by any committee or work group. And I was proposing change that to reverse all actions, just because I thought it was a more a more concrete term.
Or could it be decisions or actions?
I'm good with that too. Phil,
I just wanted to be clear, Stu, you suggested the removal of 5.2D in its entirety?
no. So I'm sorry. I'm
D.
yeah. I know. No, I'm saying I'm withdrawing my amendment
proposed
to
change.
change the word persons to directors.
And
so
eliminating D.
D will
No,
still
no,
be there.
D is important.
He's still there. I mean, for those who aren't familiar,
all right.
anything that's changed has an underline under it or a strike through. So.
Yeah.
What,
And so which is the word that's being removed? directors or
No,
person?
nothing's being removed. He's just withdrawing his
So-
proposed changes.
Right, so if you kind of because directors is underlined, that disappears, and because persons is struck through, it will reappear, and won't be voted on because there's no change.
It's gonna stand as it is.
The existing word is persons. I was suggesting changing it to decision, to directors. I'm withdrawing that, so it reverts to just persons.
That's all I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
And let's, I hear a bid for actions or decisions in 5.3A.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
There can be no doubt.
Yeah.
So,
Any other
so
verbs
We don't
you
have
wanna
to
put in
quibble
Anything you wanna do, we can
over
say
whether
that.
is quibble. We can quibble.
Phil, you got a question or comment?
Oh, sorry. No, I have to reduce. Take the
Okay.
hand down. Sorry about that.
So the phrase would now read, the board retains the right to review, amend, or reverse all actions or decisions by any committee or work group. Unanimous consent on that?
You're here.
Yes.
Okay. The everything in the annual meeting section is just putting, there's no substantive change. It's just putting things in proper form. There's a redundancy, something was out of order. I can read it to you. But it's staff had no comments or objections
It made
to
sense.
it, and it was
It made
it's
more
all,
sense.
it's all just very,
Good.
so we're good on all those changes?
Yep.
Okay. So it's
Just to clarify, so that was a change to 6.1C, a change to the language of 6.1D, and the removal of 6.1E.
And there looks like there's a change in the kind of opening paragraph to the elimination of the. Stuart doesn't want to give any more oral
no,
reports.
it's
I'm teasing you.
it comes up. I mean, there's duplication stuff.
We'll just hum them.
Yeah, sure. No, I understand that. I
Stop you from giving an oral report.
I just wanted to be clear that we're still talking about removing E.
Yes.
6.1E. Okay,
Yes.
yeah, that
Yeah.
I'm clear.
Okay. And then the two paragraphs that are struck under 6.4 have nothing to do with quorum. Certainly have nothing to do with quorum at a director's meeting. So that's why
I'm gonna make a minor suggestion there.
yeah.
If you're eliminating B and C,
Yeah.
you will eliminate the
A.
paren
Yeah.
A.
Yeah.
That's all. It's
That's a scrib-
obviously
yeah.
very minor, but
That's
just
a
if you're cleaning up, you may as well
scrivener's.
clean up.
Okay. So are we all good on that?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. That is what I had. That's the sum total of my amendments. Now let's look at staff because they have gone through, and who do we've got Adrian, and we got a good selection of staff who can, this is great. This is good.
Yeah, Adrian, Tom, and
Yeah.
Susan and Aaron are all still on the, and Sybil are all still
Okay.
on the call.
Yeah.
Several of them were at policies and
So- Yeah.
bylaws, so they may have
me-
better information than
Okay,
I
okay,
do.
let-
if
let-
the
let-
question
let-
is
find
asked.
this
Yeah. Yeah.
document. What is it titled?
We finished board bylaw
Yes.
suggestions.
Yeah.
They've all been
Approved.
consented to, so these are going to the ballot.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well,
Yeah.
Amended.
Now we're considering staff.
Yeah.
So there's a break here. Now it's doing the staffs.
Yeah.
And again, as I understand it, again, I just want to get this process right. Because staff got the right number of signatures, if staff wants them to go to the annual meeting, they're gonna go. But the question for us is whether we, as a board, are also recommending them.
Correct.
Correct.
And staff has indicated,
Process guy.
staff has indicated they wish to withdraw at least one, maybe two.
I
and-
understand.
And so that's.
Well, if they're withdrawn, they're withdrawn.
Yeah.
In my opinion, we don't even need to discuss them unless there's a reason to discuss them.
So what I would suggest, the document you should call up now
Yes.
is the one that's staff comments on bylaws amend.
Okay.
And
That's what I was guessing, but I wasn't sure.
And this is the text of the letter Susan wrote following.
Which I did see, but
From
it-
the email.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's good to
but-
look at it.
Yeah.
while we're-
So,
It was an
Oh,
email
nice.
sent today at 3:25 p.m. entitled Stews and Member Bylaw Proposals. It was
Yeah.
sent by Susan Sheldon.
and what I did was I just cut and pasted it in so it's easier access. So first of all, they've withdrawn their proposed 5.2 regarding chairmanship of the finance committee, which we appreciate. There is a tentative withdrawal of their Article 7, and this may involve some discussion.
Wait a second.
Well, Article 7 was the,
Article 7 is the
Oh, I
put
see.
the staff collective in the bylaw. And I think we should start by having someone from staff open this part of the conversation rather than have me.
About why it's tentative or not?
Oh, yeah, and their
Yeah.
thought. I mean, I can share with you my thoughts that I think led to their discussion, or they can start. Doug, Susan, Adrian, Sybil, how do you think, how would you like to proceed?
Well, can I just also say, as a board member, I just need to know whether or not it's withdrawn. And if there's a question, and that's the reason why it's tentative, then what you need from the board to decide whether or not
Okay.
it will be withdrawn. Because if it's withdrawn, I mean, we can have an interesting discussion,
No, let's just
but
keep
it's
going.
not a decision the board needs to make.
Yeah.
The issue is that some of this implicates collective bargaining. And we really can't talk in any meaningful manner about collective bargaining in the absence of the union representative.
Right.
So we have to, there's a fair amount of dancing around that needs to be done. I guess the first question is, Doug, is this withdrawn? Is it tentatively withdrawn? What do you need from us to make it withdrawn?
That's my question.
And I need to ask my fellow staff because I have no idea where it's at this point.
Okay. Floor is
I was
open.
working on Wordstock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see. Susan, what you got?
The concern was with, if you go all the way down on that letter, the concern was with the board shall, or the board will delegate the part-time stuff to,
It's not what we're on, I don't think.
that's
The
why
one,
I'm saying it was tentative, depending
Okay.
on how the other thing was resolved.
Oh,
Mhm.
So,
Guys resolved that by saying that it would be the board shall delegate to the staff, correct? On 3.9.
hiring of part-time staff, I believe,
Yep.
no, I withdrew.
rather than the board
withdrew
may.
it.
I withdrew it.
That whole
All right,
thing.
so if it's completely withdrawn, then we are withdrawing this.
great.
We did not have a decision on what you were doing with that.
All right,
Okay,
fair enough.
Got
Great.
Fair enough.
Consensus.
Perfect.
great. Cool. Sweet.
Awesome.
So that one's
Um,
withdrawn.
So 7, okay, 310. As to whether or not the board's authority to put persons on the email list, give them speaking privileges. We had this, we had a good exchange at policies and bylaws, and I'm try and come at this the right way. First of all, there was never any notion that someone given speaking and listserv privileges would have any voting privileges or any access to closed session material or closed session access. That's not going to happen. My sense was that, in particular, Dave has been so valuable that, and as a courtesy and as a sign of respect, that to have him, to put him on the email list and to let him speak was a good thing. I understand staff's concern at how open-ended that might be. My respond, then, okay, if you now go to,
Yeah, I would interject only to say that our concern in no way has to do with Dave personally.
I will
I
accept
just
that.
want to reiterate that.
I don't think we ever took it that way.
I will accept that. I suggested, then when this came up in the bylaws committee, just a couple hours ago, I suggested, well, how about we say that the board, the board may include the immediate past president, and grant them speaking privileges on listserv. And I would add, even though it's not necessary, but may not extend to them any voting rights or access to closed session material, just to address any concerns staff might have about this.
Or misconceptions down the line.
Right,
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
In case they weren't present here.
The concern that then arose in my mind about, well, if I just say the immediate past president, when you all rise up and throw me out, then I become the immediate past president.
No, you're here.
And Dave is out. And so I want to do something that protects that. And so I would then say past presidents plural.
You know what? I think this is bigger than that, and I'm still troubled by the staff's concern. I think we can, if necessary, clarify that, we can't delegate voting powers. We can't, delegate. Frankly, I don't know what other authority the board has, frankly, other than, legally, our only power is to vote on things. Okay. And so anything else we might delegate, there is no law, for example, about who we can or cannot communicate with. So I'm actually deeply disturbed that the staff is concerned that we as a board might find it useful to include, frankly, anyone in board communications because we think it would be helpful to our operations. I don't see how it harms anyone. And so I would oppose this as written. I do kind of sort of get what the staff is talking about, but I think that the concern should only be that we cannot, and of course there's never been any discussion of, delegate voting powers to anyone who's not on the board.
And it could have just been a big misunderstanding.
It could be, I don't know, but sending someone in, there's nothing, for example, let's just say Stuart hadn't put Gabe on the board list, but instead CC'd him every single time. I don't see how that's in any way prohibited in any way, shape, or form. Now, subject to if there's something about private union stuff or whatever, but even then, we can choose to seek advice from anybody in our union negotiation.
Maybe it was that having him be part of the BOD list implied that he was joining the board in some other way, and that was a misunderstanding.
That part I can understand.
Susan?
I just want to say that this has to do with the fact that when we presented this to the more than 4 other signatories, but we stopped at 4. We just wanted to make sure we had enough. And I sent out at least, I informed the signatories of this. This was something that was very important to them. They're feeling that that they vote for who gets privileges. They vote for who is on the board listserv. And yes, Jeff, I have no problem with the board copying Dave on every single board thing that goes out. You perfectly have the right to that. But the people that sign this, including a former past president, say that's our right. That's our right to determine what privileges are given to whom. That is something members vote on. So I just want to take Dave out of this. I want to take the staff out of this and say it is my sincere feeling, and it is, I believe, going to be the feeling of a number of members, that they're the ones that get to determine who gets to do any of those things that come along with being a board member.
Wait, so did in any of your conversations, did you include even a passing reference to voting or having access to
No.
processing.
No.
Because it's in your explanation.
Let me also,
That is not what
Susan.
went, because we wanted to be clear that we were listing everything that we could think of that was specific to board members. But when the objection is to at all allowing the board to determine how those go without the members having input.
here's the problem. These are bylaws. These are, for example, to my knowledge, there's nothing in the bylaws about who does or doesn't have access to various parts of our Google Drive. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Right.
So even using the term board privileges, to my knowledge, there is nothing in the bylaws that defines what board privileges are. So I don't understand and I'm putting my lawyer hat on here, what the legal, and bylaws are legal. It's a legal document. It's not policy. It's a legal document. I don't understand the legal argument that you don't want us to delegate something you call privileges that are nowhere defined in the bylaws. And because, in my opinion, they're nowhere defined in the bylaws, and I don't think they should be, because that'll take us down a rabbit hole we'll never get out of, then, to excuse the expression, we should be able to delegate whatever the fuck we want that isn't a board power in the bylaws. So voting, for example, or sitting on certain committees, or being an officer, all those things that are very well defined, and we can't do that. It would be a violation of other parts of the bylaws. It doesn't even need to be repeated. But other parts, I mean, if the staff wants to pursue this, they can, obviously, but I would certainly oppose it.
And Susan, you make it sound as though, Esty and Dave Watson and the others came up with this themselves. You went to them with this. You were the ones who generated this. This was your doing.
We had
Don't-
already
don't-
sent
don't
a
put it on
letter.
me.
We had already sent a letter to the board that expressed our concerns with this. It was dismissed. We asked people how they felt about that, and they were not happy.
Right. I mean, do you seriously believe that the board can't decide who it sends material to and who it gives speaking privileges to?
I think it should be a member decision. They can definitely vote against this. You guys can make the case that
But
this
the
is
members have
crazy,
made their
that it-
decision.
How?
Haven't the members made their decision by voting in the board members?
Here's my suggestion as far as process. I think it could be that the staff and the people who sign this will continue to want to put this forward. And I suggest that the board simply oppose it and state so when in the communication to members. And, if it passes, it passes, and we'll deal with it.
Adrian has her hand raised.
Oh, yeah, Adrian.
I just want to put in my thoughts here. We don't have a problem. Okay, I as Adrian, as a part of the staff, but not speaking for the staff, we don't have a problem with this board. We like this board. The overarching issue that we are concerned about is the longevity of this, where, maybe down the road, there is a different board that has different intentions to get different things done at WORT that maybe will not be as beneficial. So we're really more looking towards the future of what this could mean. Nothing against this current board. We don't think there's a problem, but we think there could be down the line.
So that's the board that would be elected by the people who you want to vote that we can't do this, right? That's the same people.
Well, no, let
The
me
volunteers are going to elect a board that's going to do something like that.
Well, it's more.
That's how a board gets elected. A board gets elected by the volunteers, and you're saying that the volunteers, in their collective wisdom, would elect a board that collectively would put somebody on the mailing list and let them speak at a board meeting that would do damage to the station. That's your argument.
It just seems like a circular argument to me.
Okay,
Dean,
I think, first of all, I don't like the way this is written. I would be able to accept the first sentence that it ends by specifically prohibited by law or these bylaws. Everything after that, I think, is not a good bylaw, and it goes to what's a future problem that may or may not happen. But when you're saying anything else is specifically prohibited by law or these bylaws, I get that. We're not going to break a law or violate the bylaws. And this is such an unusual situation. We have a founding member of this station, and we're trying to get him some type of emeritus status, which maybe that's how the approach we should take. And I don't know if that includes giving him access. An emeritus status is kind of what we're talking about here for this particular unusual and probably never going to happen again case. So leaving the first sentence, I'd be all right with. What we're doing is giving this guy some emeritus status and ability to come and from this board and any future board, the access to his knowledge and insights into how what WRT set up and how and what it needs. So that's my comment on this. Strike that everything after that. I wouldn't be, and then let it go to a vote. But
I mean,
that's where I'm at.
I would add, I would accept, no person not elected by the membership or chosen by staff may vote or have access to closed session materials or access to closed sessions. You want to put that in? I'm fine with that. It's unnecessary, but if that, assuages your concerns, but it is an inherent board right to choose who it communicates with and who it asks for comments and assistance. And this is really disturbing. Susan.
I think all your arguments are, perfect for what you argue against this. I think, this is the amendment that has been suggested. This is the amendment that has been supported by people other than the staff. And I feel very uncomfortable withdrawing an amendment that other people have signed on to.
You've already done so.
The other ones, we got permission. This one, we didn't.
Well, yeah.
And we should just move on.
Yeah, then
Okay.
the staff can or
I don't
present it as an option and the board can say, we don't support
I do
it,
not
and
think it's in
it's probably okay.
It's not in proper form, but okay. Then the motion is to have the board oppose the proposed staff amendment to section 3.10. Further discussion.
So if we wanted to include something, because we talked about in policy and bylaws, past president,
Yeah.
could we suggest our own version of 3.10 that gets sent to membership?
Wait, that's a fine idea, young man.
Well, go again. Sure.
Hang on.
We can make our own counter proposal.
We absolutely can.
Yeah.
My concern is, and I heard what you were saying, trying to maybe come to some compromise, but I don't want us to be limited to past presidents. No disrespect. We should, who knows?
Well, yeah, but-
maybe
yeah, but-
there's some bylaw guru who we want to consult with and share
but
emails
okay,
with.
But Jeff, as a practical matter, if that unicorn shows up, we can CC them for the immediate problem we have in front of us. I think Jay's comment is a good one.
I mean, it's fine. I'm not going to oppose it. I think it's unnecessarily limiting.
It's unnecessarily limiting, but if it is seen as a reasonable alternative to staffs, it may have some value. I think that was inherent in Jay's comment.
That is my concern, is doing something, bridging the gap between where we are and where staff is, at the very least.
I think it's a sign of good faith on our part to say we're absolutely saying they do not have voting rights or access to closed session material. I think it's a sign of good faith that we're limiting it, and
that part I'm fine with.
Support
That part I'm 100% fine with.
So my proposal is to add in section 4.8 under duties and powers the sentence The board may by majority vote include past presidents on its mailing list and grant them speaking privileges at board meetings, comma, but may not extend to them any voting rights or access to closed session material.
I don't think we need to specify past presidents. We should be able to specify whoever we want.
That's my feeling. If you
Change
feel
persons?
politically
Any person.
that we're doing past presidents because it's harder to, it has better chance of passage. I mean, I understand the politics
What if
of
we
it.
want a past treasurer?
I don't have a good sense of
Past
how
officer.
members will respond at the
directors?
annual meeting.
So
I don't want to be that specific.
Yeah, I was thinking, what about a past board member,
Yeah.
very skilled
Yeah.
in, let's
Or a
say
previous
HR,
employee.
yeah,
like HR or something else
Yeah.
that wants to come back and volunteer for the board to help them
Yeah.
as a board assistant on a
Mhm.
volunteer
That's the whole
basis.
point.
past
That
officer-
would be,
past
yeah,
directors.
I mean,
Officers. No, not officer, director.
Directors. past
director. Not that I'm arguing against
It could have
staff,
been that
but
Dave was never the president.
Right.
Why
Um,
can't it just be any,
I
like,
applaud
somebody's bringing
the
in
attempt at
another-
a middle ground.
another set of
all I gotta
talents and
say.
says, hey, I could help. Would you like my help? The
I-
board could say yes.
Yeah, but but those one-offs we can handle
Mhm.
on it. We're gonna CC you on this, but I think for putting
We've
this,
also had a paid board assistant who was privy to all board emails because they had to be, because they
Yeah.
took the notes because
Yeah.
the secretary wasn't doing
I
it.
was on the
So,
board at that time.
and the board solely gave them the privilege
Yeah.
to be in the email group.
which your amendment would prevent.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying I applaud the attempt at a middle ground.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe staff could caucus and come up and
Well, we
endorse
just
it.
haven't had that chance. That
Yeah.
all happened
Oh,
last minute.
I'm
So like, we
3
haven't
hours
had a
ago.
chance to meet as a group.
I'm gonna get to process in a second, but so the proposal before us now is the board may by majority vote include past directors on its mailing list and grant them speaking privileges at board meetings, but may not extend to them any voting rights or access to closed session material. Everybody got that?
That sounds good.
I don't know. if it's going.
I'll
I'd
second.
rather stay in the conversation.
Everybody got that?
Yes.
Okay.
And Dan, I second that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's my proposed 4.8, except changing past presidents to past directors.
Sure.
Okay, so the first thing is, did we get a vote on opposing staff's 3.10? I think we
I
did.
thought we had unanimous. but
Unanimous
not done.
consent.
Well, -1, I have
Yeah.
to abstain.
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
You don't have to abstain. You can
Well-
vote- you can vote no on the motion.
I'll just vote no that on the motion then.
Okay. Then okay. Vote on the proposed amendment, the proposed 4.8. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed?
Well,
You want to
what-
abstain or you want?
which one are we on now?
We've already voted.
One
we voted.
revised, one that Stuart proposed around directors.
The board may we're voting on adding the phrase, the board may by majority vote include past officers on its mailing list.
Past directors.
Sorry, thank you. Past directors on its mailing list, grant them speaking privileges, but may not extend to them any voting rights or access to closed session material.
Again, I don't
You wanna
know what
abstain
the,
on that?
yeah, because I don't know what the consensus of
fair.
staff
That's
is.
fair.
That's fair.
That's okay. That's fine.
Okay. I
That,
personally like it.
now what is that? Did I then, okay, the other thing is, where to go is staff wants, I understand why things could get confused. Okay,
Mm.
the 9.2,
And this was bylaw amendments?
yes, yeah,
Yes,
the comma.
right.
And we discussed this, I mean, there may be a modification of the proposal on that now because as things stand now, anyone other than the board has to submit in writing any proposed amendments 60 days before the next membership meeting. The board's only time constraint is to act in time for the notice to go out, which is 30 days. Staff's original proposed amendment was to eliminate that comma and give the board the same 60-day deadline as participating members. I explained as best I could that for the good of the corporation, the board of directors needs to be able to respond in a later point than participating members did. And the question was raised, why should we have more privileges than the members? Because we have the fiduciary responsibility. It's our names are on the line. We are the corporation, we have the responsibility, and we need to respond to any breaking developments. There was some back and forth about changing the times. I don't know where that now stands. I think this is a very, very destructive amendment that would really hamstring the board of directors. And I don't know what it accomplished. Ms. Doug, and then who's in the upper left hand?
There was a modification.
Doug and then Susan.
Wait.
Yeah,
There was a
there is a
modification that I'm looking at
Okay,
that doesn't look problematic. It
Okay.
just as amendments to these bylaws may be proposed to either the board or by petition of at least 10 voting members and must be submitted to the board in time for addition to the agenda of the
Right.
board meeting.
but that means a potentially hostile or destructive amendment could come in
I
in
see.
10 days, and we would not have time to respond to it.
No,
Right.
That's, yes.
no.
Yes,
The intent is for this meeting, the meeting the month before
right.
the annual meeting, which means it would have had to be submitted by last Friday to be on the agenda so that the board would have a chance to review it and discuss it in this.
I
board
understand, but
meeting.
though here's what, in fact, let's just play out what happened this time. Because the staff, along with a few other members, voted or proposed a bunch of things, that then led to Stuart requesting before this meeting to meet with you guys, policy and bylaws meeting, and significant modifications that happened before the meeting.
Today.
And if
Yeah.
if that timeline had been compressed to just in time to get the agenda out, which it doesn't even say 10 days here, by the way, it just in time for the agenda, which could be right before the meeting.
Yeah.
Then that opportunity, which led to significant modifications, not complete, but significant modifications of the staff's proposals, it wouldn't be able to happen.
Yeah.
So now I do understand where you're coming from, Stuart, that we need to see what I will call non-board suggested amendments in enough time. Now, maybe
Well,
there's
in the-
another
the meeting.
window of time we could describe if the staff think it shouldn't be 60 days, but it needs to be enough time that the process that happened, I think mostly successfully,
Mhm.
in the last couple of weeks.
The last 24 hours.
Right, but
That's the thing.
No,
but if we had just gotten it, you wouldn't even had that
Right,
24. The
right.
24 hours was the nature of when you were able to schedule things, as
Right,
opposed
right.
to it came in at the last
But
minute.
I wasn't able to review any of the
Right.
messages that came
Yeah.
this afternoon because I did my prep for this meeting last night.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I see Susan and then Phil. Yeah.
I just want to say that this is another one where I feel that there is a better solution between the 60 days for both of us
Mhm. Yeah.
and the, which is the one that's there right now. But I do not feel comfortable withdrawing something that, again, the other signatories were not comfortable, did not want it withdrawn. So can we, I am fine with you guys drafting something and coming up with something now but I'm not comfortable withdrawing this.
Sure.
If you want to come up with your own, that's great. And I think it would be better. But I just want to also say to you, we didn't receive Stu's thing until the 1st.
What?
14 days ago.
I said, no, you
No,
received,
can I just, what date did you mail it?
Well, if you said the 1st, if you think it's the 1st, that's 2 weeks. That sounds like,
I gave you my proposed bylaws amendments 2 days after you gave me yours. 2 days.
So what I'm saying is, when you came and talked to us about them, we pointed out things that you said, oh yes, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to withdraw that and everything. So, you know, us having notice before, if you're saying, what is the time limit you think that the board has to do this?
I'm not sure what point you're making, Susan.
I think the point, if I may interject, is that if the board doesn't propose until 30 days before, that gives me no opportunity as staff representative to gauge a staff response to each of the proposals
Or far less.
and to be able to vote on them. And that kind of takes me out of the conversation. If the board doesn't submit until, because really your deadline is May 30th. And by then the voting is like already going.
Okay, but I gave you my proposed bylaws amendments on May 3rd.
You did, but that's not the deadline. We're talking about the deadline in the bylaws for the board to submit changes, which right now is 30 days before the meeting. I'm telling you, 30 days does not give me enough time to respond as a staff representative and vote appropriately.
Can I make a suggestion? If we take the current staff modification and proposed amendment, and instead of where it says must be submitted to the board in time for addition to the agenda, I would suggest, and we can decide what the right amount of time is, but I'm thinking in the 10 to 14 days prior to the date of the board meeting prior to the annual meeting. So that there's
well, 2 board meetings before the annual meeting, because we still have a board meeting. in June.
Right. Okay. So
which I think is what we were trying to say.
I think, well, the problem is this right now just says in time. And my observation of the way we've been doing agendas is that agendas could be literally modified just before the meeting. Okay. And so
days?
What's that?
So 14 days?
That's a suggestion.
I think that's lovely. I was going to
think
suggest that.
another time is better.
And that would give me enough time to have staff meetings where we could discuss these proposed amendments, and then I could come back in the May meeting, you know, and vote confidently in what the entire staff thinks, and not just like what 1 or 2 staff members think, but to actually get the consensus vote on each of the proposed amendments. That would be extremely helpful.
Now, if we come up with something that the staff representative on the board thinks is a good idea, is there any chance that we can get an agreement that we can get one proposal going to staff or going to the membership, or are you still gonna, or is this, I mean, I do not want this going.
I'd rather not have 2 proposals go to the membership either, especially if we can come to a common ground on yet another one that we can all agree on. And I think that one specifically in the minds of members who have voted on our proposed bylaws amendments, I think as long as we find an equal ground where we all have the same deadline, I think that was the intent. And if that deadline is,
who is we in that?
Huh?
Who, when we said that we all,
the board or membership petitioners, because they would also.
No, see, the board needs to bat last.
More than 14 days.
I don't.
What do you mean bat last?
That we need to be able to.
But we do get to bat.
No,
last.
not if we have the same deadline.
At the meeting.
At the meeting, you bat last.
I mean, we're doing it now.
Right. This is the board batting last.
So okay, so what do you think? What? Give me the timeline that you see.
What Jeff proposed was 14 days before the board meeting that takes place
prior to the notice.
Prior to the notice of annual meeting, yes, which puts it at a month and it puts us at 2 months at basically the May 1st date, because if we have an end of June meeting,
but
in the middle of May board meeting.
Okay, but if a hostile or really unworkable member generated bylaw proposal comes in on that deadline, that's also our deadline. How do we,
I mean, as I understand the process, even though these are coming in, so far I haven't heard anybody object to it. We've come up with some modified ones based on, right here, right now, is that's past the deadline. I'm completely comfortable
no,
with it.
they're not past the deadline.
We're crafting our response.
Because it's not past the deadline. We have until, well, we're going to talk about that. I mean,
But Stu, I think the intent is that anybody has the same chance to submit a bylaws proposal, right? The way the board bats last is that rebuttal of the damaging proposal and sending that rebuttal to the volunteers.
But how do we do that if our deadline is the same?
Not for the rebuttals, not for the responses to proposed bylaws amendments.
No,
The board this is where we're formulating the response.
no, but we're just saying
They're two different things.
We're just saying thumbs up, thumbs down.
No, they comes with narratives. It's not just thumbs up, because we're not voting on whether or not to push these forward. The staff can choose to withdraw or not withdraw. If we choose not to withdraw, you have no say in that.
That's right.
Right. But you do have a say in, we as a board have a say in submitting our recommendations on those proposals.
Yeah, but that's not an amendment in and of itself. That's just a narrative saying we think this is a bad idea.
Yes.
Phil and Laura are seeking recognition. Phil and Laura, but
and that is the power. It's coming from the board.
We're at 2 hours and 13 minutes, guys.
That's not a surprise.
Yeah, but this is important.
It's going to be a long one.
No, I think we're almost
we're close.
Yeah, Phil and then Laura.
Here's my question.
Yeah.
And Susan proposed this in her email. Does the board believe volunteers and other voting members should have less time than the board?
I do.
I
yes.
don't. Okay, Stu does. I don't. And we might as well go around the table and everyone can say, I do or I don't.
And I will tell you why I do, because we are the ones who have the fiduciary responsibility. Our names are on the corporate line. We are the ones who are entrusted with the operations of the corporation. And we respect the volunteers. We appreciate the volunteers, but we are the ones who are legally responsible. And we have to be able to act for the good of the corporation.
And we've already been elected by the volunteers.
And we've been elected by the volunteers. They have empowered us. So yes, I believe we have more authority and responsibility than the volunteers. I do.
But what is the purpose for the later deadline? I guess is why.
So that if a bad or hostile amendment is proposed, we can propose something more meaningful other than just we oppose it. We have
current bylaws. We have the same days.
No, we don't. That's why.
So is this written wrong?
Yeah, yes. There's a comma that says the current language says amendments may be proposed by the board of directors, comma, or by any 10 voting members within written submission within 60 days. So that has been interpreted to mean that the 60 days applies to the.
But not by everyone and not by the people who wrote it.
Well, by the current board president.
Okay, then please clarify, because Dave Watts, who is a former board president who helped craft that language, said that was not the intent of the comma, and neither did Esty.
I'm sure they.
And that's why they're
on
that petition.
I'm sure they thought about that at the time. Susan, Laura. I'm sorry, Laura.
I think that this whole, first of all, we're not going to get the staff to withdraw tonight, apparently. So a lot of this discussion is kind of moot outside of what we're going to advise the membership to do concerning the proposed amendment. This whole discussion just enforces the idea to me that we need more that these dates are really important, and trying to push all of this up into the last 24 hours before we're making decisions is totally the wrong way to do it. And this is really, no matter what we decide tonight, unless we can come to some sort of a compromise with the staff, I just don't see it as a good way forward.
Now thank you. I'm sorry, is that? Yes, Susan. Is that Susan?
Yeah.
Yes, Susan.
The thing that is possible, we can't amend anything now. We are past our timeline. You are not.
Exactly.
So what I'm saying is, if we can come to something, if it says that everyone has 45 days, if everyone has whatever, the fact is that comma has always been interpreted, the lack of a comma, that the same time applied. It's how everyone has understood it since the bylaws were created. It is, Stu.
No,
We followed this for every bylaw we did in the 10 years I've been here. It was always submitted then for 10 years. And prior to that, Dave and other people have said it was always followed when they were board president. So all I'm asking, if you guys think you need more time, then keep it the 60 days and put the comma in. You're still going to have more time.
Got his hand.
Doug.
I have an idea of a compromise, and I know this would mean amending our proposal unless the board wants to draft a counter proposal, in that all proposed bylaws amendments by either the staff or by a petitioning membership, talk about that 14 days before this meeting, but then adding a clause that the board may craft counter proposals beyond that.
It is
date.
what we're doing.
Yeah.
No. But I'm saying this gives it out, because I know Stu's concern is that you want to be able to offer more than just a narrative, but you want to offer a counter proposal. And if we put the specific language of the counter proposal in there, that gives you that door, but it still holds the board to the same deadline for original submission of bylaw amendment changes, so that they're the same, but that it allows the board an extra response. Yeah. So what I'm proposing is that we support the staff's bylaw amendment and also propose an additional sentence that says the board may counter proposal up until this, or
30 days.
No later.
No later than
the board meeting prior to the issuance.
Right, because I need time to get it on the ballot.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And just to be clear, I need to know whether or not, because you have an original proposed amendment,
Because I
a
agree
modified,
with your concern.
right? You have a modified one. The original calls for the 60 days. The modified just says just in time for the agenda, and I'm not comfortable with that.
No, that I think that's what we need to change to 14 days before the May meeting, if that's amenable to everybody else.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
And I also feel this
That's where we
would
were.
be amenable to the members that signed on to this.
I think so too, Susan.
I'm
Because I don't
comfortable
think the board's ability to counter propose should be taken away, and the way we proposed it would.
But there's no new proposals. I want that to be sure that it's a counter proposal to an amendment and not a new proposal
Sense.
from the board.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So wait. Let me see if I got this. So amendments may be proposed by the board of directors or by any 10 voting members of WART by submission to the secretary at least 60 days prior to the next membership meeting. There are no commas in that sentence. Amendments may be proposed by the board of directors or by any 10 voting members of WRT by written submission to the secretary at least 60 days prior to the next membership meeting, period. no later than the board meeting prior to the issuance of the agenda for the annual meeting, the board may draft counter proposals to specific outside amendments. Is that what we're saying?
Actually, it can happen at the meeting. I mean, it's happening now. That's exactly.
That's what we're
Right,
saying,
right,
this
right.
meeting.
No later than the.
No
board
later than
prior
this
to the
board
issuance.
meeting.
Oh,
This
okay.
board meeting,
All right.
yeah.
Fine. Yeah.
Is that what we're saying? Want me to,
Yes.
do you want me to read
Yeah.
that again?
I think that's what we're saying.
It's-
Do it one more time.
It's the original proposed amendment by members, as is written, and the additional sentence, no late, the board may draft counter proposals to specific outside amendments no later than the board meeting, no, it should be, no later than the board meeting prior to the issuance of the agenda for the annual meeting, comma, the board may draft counter proposals to specific outside amendments.
I think you should call them volunteer amendments because that's what they are. They're not really or voting member amendments.
Voting
They're not.
member.
They're not.
Yeah,
They're
voting
not
member.
staff.
No, I call them outside.
Right, but in
Be
the
more
language
specific.
in the bylaws, voting
Okay.
member.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
I wouldn't say outside.
Voting
Yeah.
member amendments,
just
fine,
call it what
fine,
what they're called.
fine.
Listener sponsors could be outside members.
No, yeah, but they're not voter. No later than the, no later than the board meeting prior to the issuance of the agenda for the annual meeting, the board may draft counter proposals to specific voter member amendment, specific voter member proposed amendments.
Correct.
Now, the only sentence, which clause, the board may draft counter proposals. The board may draft counter proposals to specific voter member proposed amendments no later than the board meeting prior to the issuance of the agenda for the annual meeting.
And I think the word is not draft but propose.
Fine.
That
Oh,
again,
yeah.
this is consistent with
Mhm.
what we're.
Proposed counter amendments, yeah. Or
Okay.
proposed counter.
Is
We
that,
can't amend our thing. We can withdraw it and you can draft one, but we
Okay.
can't amend ours.
with,
Correct.
with our representation that we will propose this, will you withdraw yours?
She's
I
not
have no
able to.
problem.
You'll have to discuss.
Yeah, so you'll contact the 4 other signatories then, Susan?
Yes, I already have emails out to the ones that I haven't heard from.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the board is proposing a modification to 9.2, which would read as follows. Amendments may be proposed by the board of directors or by any 10 voting members of WRT by written submission to the secretary at least 60 days prior to the next membership meeting, period. The board may propose counter proposals to specific voter member proposed amendments no later than the board meeting prior to the issuance of the agenda for the annual meeting.
Love it.
I don't think the members that signed on would have any problem with that.
Sweet.
Bill,
I was just going to suggest that either Stu or Jeff actually write out these proposals and that we don't have to rely on an audio recording and the
In the
minutes.
Google Doc?
Yeah.
You want it?
Oh.
You want it in the Google Doc? You want me to do
I
it?
mean, I don't really care. I just think
I'd appreciate having something that is totally done to send to the signatories.
Yep, there will be.
Yeah, I need it for
Yeah.
the ballot.
We all need.
Can't we all just remember and trust each other?
So,
And we're all in a deodorant commercial together. Ah.
Write it down, yeah.
Got
We
it.
don't need to write this down, do we?
I lifted my arms today. It's been a busy one.
But you just did.
we've got proposals twice. 'cause we
I'm over
proposed counter
12 hours
proposals.
today at this point.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I've been here since
We won't
4
I think
days.
draft, I
We
think
won't-
draft.
No,
Okay.
because we could draft whatever we want. but They're actual proposals.
Okay.
I think I can assure you that we will withdraw.
I mean, it's not
upon that
poetry.
submission, yeah.
You're gonna hit 13 hours in a minute.
I am.
Yeah.
Party on, Doug.
That's 79 for the week. So hour into tomorrow, I'll be into overtime.
Yeah, you got me beat. I'm doing 2.
And then I have a 16-hour Sunday.
With the cherry on top.
Fine, I'm used
At
to it.
least there'll be a
It'll be
little
fun.
fun
Oh, I
involved.
can't wait.
You're gonna be so good.
So
I am sorry I'll miss it. Yeah, wedding in Indianapolis.
Oh, that's right. You're gonna be in Indiana.
Okay,
State
let me
Park
ask you
coming.
this. Lawyer to lawyer, do you think, which clause do you think? should
State
be
Park is
put?
gonna be there.
The clause that begins no
Maybe
later
she-
than,
Sure.
or the clause.
Kelly
that
wants me to
begins
write it
no
in
later
my own
than?
training guide. Maybe Faye should be
I don't think
the
it matters.
best
I don't think it matters.
person for that.
Okay,
So the
Susan, we
policy
want
for
me
that Sunday.
to,
I mean,
email
not
it to you?
necessarily that day,
What do you
but-
want?
Yes, yes, could you email it to me?
Bill was also asking to see it in terms
Laura.
of being,
Yeah.
and Laura, if you could pop that
Well,
into
just
the
hit the
Google
whole
Doc,
board.
you have the Google Doc open?
Hit the whole board and staff.
Was there more?
I think this is a,
That was the last one.
yeah, we.
Was it?
Yeah.
I'm
Satan's
just
going
going to,
Wales.
Yeah, Satan.
I'm just
Can
gonna send
we
this,
How about King
quiet
Charles?
down on the side chatter?
yeah.
We're getting a little punchy.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, I don't need the language in a Google Doc now. I just feel best practices are always
Yeah,
to have it written out as the proposer
yeah.
intent.
I'm going to send this to reports. The board may propose counter proposals to specific voting member proposed amendments no later than the board meeting prior to the issuance of the agenda for the annual meeting.
Great.
Okay? Do we then have,
We need to vote on this?
we need to vote on this. So with that, any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? And then does staff then withdraw its proposed 9.2?
Yeah.
Susan said they were gonna,
They have
she
to.
has to run it by the other.
Oh, she has to run it by the other four,
Like,
but I think you
doesn't
can take
expect
it
a
on faith.
problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to commend, while you're moving to the next thing, Stuart and the staff for bridging what I will say not that long ago seemed like a very large gap. And I appreciate that we were able to do that.
Yeah, I was.
Here, here.
I was pretty pissed, but I think we've
You
come
came
back.
in with
We've
gusto.
come back from the abyss.
Yeah.
So
I think so too.
Yeah.
I just say, I really hope that when we do eventually have a board retreat, we do focus somewhat on improving communication, because sending something by email and not having the opportunity for a fuller idea of what is going on, I think led to a lot of misunderstandings.
A lot of questions
Board
that
retreat.
could have been
Yeah.
asked.
Right.
well, Okay, so was that, okay, so of the staff's proposed, the staff member proposals, they've withdrawn 5.2, they've withdrawn 7, they hold to 3.10, which we are recommending against, and we have a counter to 3.10 with our proposed 4.8, which I hope I wrote down somewhere. We've resolved their 9.2. I think that's it. Is that it? Did we?
Based on this document, I think so.
Now, the one thing I would,
We already went through yours.
yeah, the one thing I would recommend is that, Doug, what is your actual, when were you planning, what was your deadline to put the ballot together?
Not this week.
Okay. Okay, because,
It needs to go live on May 30th,
okay,
and I've already PDF'd and redacted all of the board apps, so they're ready for putting into the post.
Beautiful.
These proposed amendments are more Tom's department because it's part of the gravity form, because people have to select yes or no on each one.
Oh,
But I have a feeling like we'll probably want to put it together like sometime next week,
Give it a trial
test
run.
it a little
Yeah.
bit,
Okay.
do some test voting. Yeah.
because if something occurs to us tomorrow that, oh my gosh, there's,
Oh, yeah, no.
that the executive committee,
Touching it.
that the executive committee does have the ability to meet, to do a scrivener's correction or just to
Sure, and if it's a technical
Yeah.
amendment, remember, those can always be
Yeah.
brought up
Yeah.
at the annual
Yeah.
meeting itself, because there is
Yeah.
a provision in the bylaws for technical amendments to be made
Yeah.
at the annual meeting.
Yeah.
Just no substantive changes.
So
I guess a comma
yeah.
would be
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah, okay, this comment was substantive, at least
Yeah.
in my mind. So as I think the only thing that now there is a conflict is your proposed 3.10 and our proposed 4.8.
And we'll figure it out.
That we've resolved everything else.
Yeah, it's 3.8, it's 4.8.
It's their 3.10
Our,
and our 4.8, and really I think it goes in 4.8, but so it's their 310, our 4.8 on the mailing list issue. That's the only conflict that we did not resolve. That's pretty good record.
Oh, right. Yeah. Mhm.
Yay, us.
let people vote.
Okay. Then that resolves that. Anything else on the bylaws matter to come before us at this time?
How do we monitor, board members, how do we monitor what's going on and what stage we're at on all of this?
What do you mean? I don't know what you mean.
Well, Stu said that he was going to put it in the report. When will that report be issued? When will we know what the other staff members are, when will Susan have her response back? I would like to keep up with the current state of affairs on these bylaw changes.
I don't think there's anything left unresolved. I think they've withdrawn what they can withdraw, and they haven't withdrawn what they won't withdraw. I think the only thing that hasn't been settled is we have a conflict over our 4.8 and their 310.
I think what Laura might be referring to, Stu, is that I am going back to just confirm with the signatories on the one about when things are due from whom. From the board suggested amendments and the members suggested amendments. But as I said, I'm not very concerned with your addition of the board having time to react to that, to them feeling comfortable with us withdrawing it. Laura, I just want to reassure you that the main concern was, why do we get less time to suggest an amendment? So I really don't see that. I'm more sending them an informational thing. If they have a heavy reaction to that, we've already made the decision to withdraw it, as far as I'm concerned.
If 6 of you,
We're the majority.
I would appreciate
well, it's
if
not
you
just
could-
majority, there wouldn't be 10 left.
Yeah.
You have to have 10 voting members.
Right.
And if 6
Sure.
of you are taking your proposal off the table, then while I do agree, you should let the other 4 know and say why you think it's fine. It's no longer a proposal.
Oh, yeah, we're
As I said, it's informational, Laura. I just want to reassure you that we're not going to come back and say, no, they objected, now we want to reinstate it. We won't do that.
Okay, I've known the collective to prefer to operate with consensus. So I just worry. Maybe I'm just worried too much.
Okay. Okay.
Believe me,
Thoughtfulness is appreciated.
we want the bylaw stuff over with too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's end it.
Okay, then I think
I think we're done.
that's it for the
We-
bylaws.
We ready for a motion to go into closed session?
Yeah, I think unless anybody's got anything else, I think we're about to go into closed session.
Thank God my phone's dead.
Okay, okay.
I'm at
Adios.
1% right now.
Oh.
I move we go into closed section.
Okay.
I just want to say real quick, I really appreciate the how we resolved this, and that this was done in a friendly manner with not any disparagement about why things were being created or stuff like that during this meeting. I feel like we resolved a lot of things and reestablished some trust that maybe was missing on both sides.
Appreciate that.
Here, here.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think that's
Yeah.
good. I think this is good.
Agreed.
Tom, were you seeking recognition? Or not? Or Phil?
No,
were you-
not me. That was Phil.
Phil, was your hand up or?
Thumbs up. He gave a thumbs up.
I can't see that far. Okay, there's a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing matters related to collective bargaining. So we're going,
And personnel.
and personnel, yeah.
Do we need a
we need, it's a roll call vote. We need a
Yeah.
second. Who seconded?
I'll
Dean
second it.
seconded.
Okay.
Dean seconded, Laura.
All those in
Okay,
favor-
it's
Dean,
okay.
Aye.
Tanya,
Yes.
Dan,
Aye.
Jay, Jeff,
Yeah. Aye.
Laura,
Okay.
Rebecca, Phil.
Aye.
Okay,
You forgot one.
You get to vote there.
I vote too on whether we go in or not. And I vote aye.
okay.
See you later.
Yeah, you just want to go home. Yeah.
Sleep tight.
So Sybil and Aaron, we're going to have to excuse you at this time.
Thank you for being here.
Probably cut the recording too.
Yeah, we can. Wait till there.
Sybil,
Be able to revoke the two.
You just remember.
that's a great function.
The power. of-
Just, just,
That's right. I'll tell you later.
I'll tell you
Or
later.
something.
No, that's, I'll tell you later. I'll tell you later. Fine.
Don't report. Just a don't report.
Just a don't
Don't
report. Just
report.
click don't report and get out of it.
They want to make sure there wasn't like a harassing kind of person or something like that.
We're
We're still recording. Wait a minute.
Go to the top where it says recording.
Oh, there we go.
I'll pause it.
Jeff.
In closed session, the board considered and approved a series of proposals to make to the union for the next collective bargaining agreement. And discussed impressions of the personnel evaluation.
Now I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Let's all second.
All those in favor say aye.
I
Well, this was a
Good
good
job.
meeting. I thought we got,
Good.
I thought, we
Thank
got
you,
a
Stu.
lot of important stuff
Thank
done.
you, Stu.
Thank you, everybody.
Superman.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Stu,
Yeah,
I'm going to call you tomorrow about Susan's eval. How's that?
fine.
Okay, bye.
have a good night, guys. Good night, Laura. Good night, Phil. Good night,
I
Rebecca.
know, exactly.
Good night, everyone.
For more fun than
Yeah.
this.
Have a tent or something.
Well, that was good. That was good.